Hello, everyone. Um, so I'm Tima. I'm CEO and co-founder of Alta. Alta is a video gaming startup based right here in Sydney. And today I'm going to talk about strategies for tool development. And the talk is brought to you by me and my co-worker, Serena. She did the art. So it's in-game art by her. Um, so the game we're working on called A Township Tale. So it's VR multiplayer RPG game. And just to give you a little bit of context what it means, because when we say game, it's like, it can be a game, a mobile game, it can be a game as big as, World of Tanks or World of Warcraft. So a little bit of context what the game is.
So what's that USB?
Yeah. Uh, so So it's the RPG, so you wear a device like Oculus or Vive, or it works on Windows MR as well. So it's multiplayer, it's 16 to 50 players per server. So a lot of content driven procedurally through procedural generation. We host our servers on cloud, on AWS, and we're extremely community driven, right? So in the end of the day, we ship actually our game to community members, so we interact with them on Discord, Reddit, and YouTube. Also, we don't ship our game through like Steam or Oculus Home. We ship it actually ourselves, so we have our own like distribution launcher. And then right now we have actually more than that. We have about 854 players today, and we launched about 3 weeks ago. So like you might not think about it, 800 people is a lot, but if they're able to talk to you somewhere, it's actually a crazy amount, right? If you're a developer. Um, so technical context of our like application of Township Tale, how it runs, is that it's extremely GPU performance constrained, right? Because it's VR, there's a lot of things going on. So we're always struggling with maintaining good like visual performance. It's always live, so you can go right now and actually play it. And also you can so it's done like open world game, so you can actually go all over the place. And as a result, you have to stream stuff in and stream stuff out. So it's not like you don't load everything at once and then you just go. It always has to be like streamed in and streamed out. Data has to be persistent, so you can come on the server like a week from now, and it should be how you remember it if people didn't change it. Huge bandwidth constraint because we have a lot of people. VR is very heavy on data because you have to capture like head movement, hand movement, um, heavy memory management. We have to keep on the cloud player data because, like for example, if they have in-game money, we don't want to keep it on the server. We have to have like a database where it's stored, and then everything has to be measured through some kind of analytics backend. So that's kind of the technical context we deal with when we talk about tools. So obviously from your end it's a little bit different, but that's what from our end what we basically struggling with, or not struggling with, but working on. So the core team is three programmers. So in brackets is experience, so 2.5 years experience, one technical artist, one designer, and one producer, 10 plus years. That's me. So that's basically six people as of today. And so in our core stack is Unity. So Unity on the client side and Unity on the server side. Then AWS for cloud, Maya for asset offering, Photoshop for like concept stuff and web stuff. I hate, so don't even talk about it. So every week we ship these services to basically people around the world. So we ship our server, our client. We need to ship AWS scripts just to manage the database. Then we ship our own launcher. Then with launcher we always ship our own API, which basically it's for performance reasons and also just for security reasons. And it both goes on client and the server. Then we ship a Discord bot, so it's actually like a small AI which talks to users. And then we ship website. We actually don't want, I hate web stuff. Uh, so kind of tools written, it's about, maybe 1/10 of it, but it's like debugging, rendering, memory, analytics, community, social media tools, bug reporting, and tools to make tools. So in terms of time allocation, like 90% of time we allocate on actually making tools. Like, I know it's crazy, but that's what we do. So kind of originally the problem was, and it's still true today, how to make a VR open world multiplayer RPG. So that's kind of first part of the problem. And the second part of the problem is that, so that's, they call themselves all OGs, like old gangsters. So I don't know why, 3 years will give you, make you, old gangster, but that's original team. So original team was just one programmer, one designer, and me. And we basically were faced with this kind of huge question: how do we make open world RPG in VR that we all know about? Like if you think about Skyrim, and that's kind of the question, right? And like people will say it's kind of crazy, don't do it, you're gonna kill yourself. But there is actually a way to this craziness, to this madness, and the answer to it is kind of do tools and things will become easier. So that's what solution: achieve growth, quality, and scale of open world RPG through tools development. And I'm not going to go in detail how we do it, so it's completely different talk about it, but that's how we drive scale. So in order for the world to be huge, we rely on our tools to make it huge, right? We don't offer actually a lot of assets ourselves. And it's not about like only like procedural generation and like even if you don't use procedural generation, still there is a way to use tools in a way which is going to like scale your processes. So as a result, like team has to write tools, but when you come into gameplay, into game development, you're like, hey, I want to make awesome gameplay, game design, life-changing art, epic quests, and have fun making video games. Obviously, guys, you here at Wargaming do a lot of tools, but that's kind of original proposition, right? Like when people who join our studio, they're very young, they may be 1 year out of college. That's what they're aiming. That's why they're in the industry. That's what they want to make. And which is more relevant to you is that like, hey, we promise a feature and then there is a boss and then there is 1 month and then actually writing tools is not actually getting this thing done right now. Like, if you're making a character in video game, as an artist, you know how to make a character, right? It's going to take 1 month and I want, boss wants one character, so, let's go and do it. There's nothing wrong and from their perspective to do it. So whereas we like don't look at it this way, we're like, hey, make a tool to make like 10 characters, or 100 characters or something. And another one is like why we use tools, like we use Unity, like, when we start development at the big AAA stage or even at the small stage, we'll obviously have some kind of code base of tools we rely on, right? And the reason why we rely on them is not what we don't have to write them, right? That's always the reasoning we give. Hey, we're using Unity or we're using, Blink or whatever we're using or some kind of serializer, so we don't have to write it, right? So there are wins right there. So I don't want to write tools because I already have code base that does things for me. So so all these are valid concerns. I'm not saying that they're not the concerns, but from our perspective, like they're all irrelevant because we need tools to scale. Like we need to build tools to grow, and the way kind of the talk is about is more core is like what's the strategy like when people come to you and then instead of making awesome video games, instead of being like pressured by your boss or not basically you're like, hey, I have tools to write things. What's the strategy is kind of to get people into this tool mindset. So, and we're going to talk about good people. A lot of people like say talent. I hate this word. I just like to work with good people. I hate to work with talent. Kind of setting up impossible goals, like manage expectation, expose the pain, and celebrate wins. So it's like more like a mental model how you basically push people into tool development and try to scale from that point. So when people come to our studio, like we test for tool experience out of the gate, but they don't know that. So like our test, the way it's set up is that people come in and we ask them, hey, make a small game where you kind of Mario, we can like go click on the thing and then you can like, traverse the level. So the very basic 2D thing. But the way they do it, instruction given them, hey, write level editor and then write a pathfinder, right? So like, and actually the fact is like and they have 8 hours to do it, right? So it's extremely, extreme task, but for people who kind of have tool experience, like for them it's really easy, if they don't remember, how to do A-star, they just can Google it. And then level editor, 2D level editor is pretty easy. Right, so it's kind of from the get-go, we're like, hey, you want to deliver this gameplay, which is basic, but you actually need to ship level editor, and need to ship Pathfinder, so you can actually build huge level, right? But that's kind of it. Another one is ability to learn, because when you do tools, you don't actually know most of the time what you're doing, right? It's very difficult to predict, because if it was already done before, you probably get the tools from somewhere. So a lot of tools are specifically built tools because they're there to solve this problem which wasn't solved before, and ability to learn fast is really important and it's hard to measure, but basically we're not looking like what you're skilled right now. It's like, hey, can you demonstrate through your application that you can actually learn really, really quickly. And test kind of takes care of that because you have limited time, and then lots of people don't know a lot of stuff in there, so like they Google, so like the basic learning. Then engineering approach, so every problem people look at, we always say, break it down as engineer, right? Don't look at it like, oh, it's a blob of hundreds of things which we need to fix. It's like, can you divide it into parts? Can you like prioritize what to do first, second, fourth? So like I call it like engineering approach. So you look at everything as an engineering problem rather than like generic problem. The another thing is like growth mindset. So people which always want to make kind of something bigger, right? Like this crazy programmers who are like, hey, I want to, do this like physics engine which does everything. And it's like, obviously it's maybe not, not within the scope, but at least they have like the growth mindset. They like to do big things. And then ambition is another one, which is like a personal one. Is like we try and kind of in Sydney here, we kind of try to teach a little bit that all the people come to me and I ask, hey, I ask them, what do you want to do? And like, hey, I want to work in game industry in Sydney. And I'm like, no, what do you really want to do? Like, hey, what's your dream? And they're like, hey, I want to work for Blizzard. And I'm like, why didn't apply for Blizzard? And they're like, well, I don't know. I'm like, well, if you do the math, Blizzard has like 5,000 people, turnover probably 10%, so it's like 500 jobs available every year. Then you like take Australia alone, it's like 1,000 jobs total. Like, you might have much better chances applying to Blizzard, than you have getting a job in Australia if you're good, right? Like, and then if you need to be good, you need to do certain things. And then on top of that, if you're good enough to apply to Blizzard, there's like tons of other studios who are going to take you, right? So focus on that. So ambition is really important. Like we're looking for people which look past what we do in general. So when you do tools, like the tools that come in because there is some kind of impossible goal. So like either like for us, the impossible goal was like how do we make a big open world, right? That was the first goal, and it was set in stone. Like it wasn't really something we kind of tried to scope it less or something. It's like, hey, that's the goal, and it's much easier to kind of get into the tool mindset because like you don't really have a choice. Artists will sit there, do art assets, terrain for a couple of days, and they're like, hey, I need another 10 years to get to what we want. And so like that's why like set the big goal, stick to it, and then just make a tool to deliver it. And then asking challenging questions is especially like for us and in tool development, like a lot of tools have to do with performance, right? So like a profiling, right? And then like asking challenging questions like how do the things work? And then now studio, like in the beginning, like a lot of fun was because Unity, like a lot of people know what it means. It means they don't know anything, what's going on with their program, so we just blame some kind of underlying tool. Right, and like the challenging question will be like, no, what's actually going on? Can you explain it like from memory perspective, from asset perspective? And it gets annoying, but people are like, well, I'll just write a tool which is going to tell you, what things are, right? Like, hey, that's what's happening. And always move the goalposts, right? Like when you do tools, like when tools is delivered, it's not like, hey, we're done job. It's like, hey, what can it do better? Because every tool is not only improves on productivity what you're doing, but it always uh, kind of opens new opportunities. And from our side, like the good example is the launcher we ship. The reason why we ship launcher rather than going to Steam was that we kind of wanted to be closer to the user, and we didn't really want people to rate us because when you go on Steam, like people are like, hey, 1 star, your game sucks, right? And we're just like, rather like, hey, can we just give us like feedback personally? We don't want this star system there and just being like slashed with it. So that was like kind of the thing. That was the launcher was shipped. And another one we wanted to update really quickly, right? You can do it with Steam, but it's kind of when you ship, we really just wanted like, hey, we committed something and then, like if 20 minutes later it's on the cloud, people can play it. So it was kind of, that was the original goal to achieve. But then like what happens is because like kind of we played around with it, we actually ship like HTML5 application within the, Windows wrapper. And then we're like, oh, actually, like people creating YouTube videos, why not, actually, scan YouTube and then just deliver YouTube videos which people make for our game in our launcher, right? And then it's like wasn't the goal, but it's like kind of we moved the goalpost. Now it's not only the launcher, it's also like content delivery system for our community. So if you're a community member, you're like streaming on Twitch or doing YouTube, in a couple of months, everybody who plays the game will have access to it, right? So we kind of expand the reach of our community to everyone who plays the game automatically, through our basically streaming on the launcher. So manage expectations. So most of the time we fail. We're not like superhumans. Like a lot of things we fail, 9 out of 10 times, and it's okay because when you build tools, like if you get one thing right, it gives you like 10x to 100x wins. So if you fail, it's fine. So just never come into and say like, hey guys, we're doing this, and then if you don't do it, like I'll kill you. I was doing it a little bit, but yeah, don't do it. Start small. Always. Uh, Everybody alive, okay, for now. So start really small, like because you want to see this wins quickly, right? Like when you build tools, the worst thing you can do is just like build a massive tool. You really want, hey, can we upload the build to the cloud? Like something small, like hey, we can, like let's ship it. Ooh, we're going somewhere, and then always like be pleasantly surprised. With games, like we as a gamers, we always expect things to work, and like if something works, I'm like wow, amazing, unbelievable magic, right? And obviously learn from mistakes, right? Like that's kind of the main thing in tool development. That sometimes some things are stupid, so don't do that. Don't do them again. Another good strategy is the reason why people don't do the tools quite a lot and just don't want to do them because it's somebody else's pain all the time. So like in AAA development, it's generally the testing team, right? Like the testing team actually going to get all the hate and they actually find all the bugs. And then there is a community management team which like actually gets all the hate, right? So like as a developer, generally you get your tickets, you're like, ooh, done, you just kind of happy sitting there. So for us, it's like obviously we don't have testing team, like we're a community management team. So like for us, it's like actually let's do something which exposes the like shipping is one. Another one has have a critic on the team, right? Which delivers pain. So I'm the critic. Like everything kind of which we do is always get criticized, right? Like this tool is too slow. Can we make it faster? Can we, like so one team member generally in a small team has to be the critic, and they don't have to be like the dickhead about it. They just need to be like they have to challenge their team, right? The goal is to be like challenge and just look at something and make it like better. And like people then they kind of will do more tools because like, hey, this guy's impossible to please, so actually let's over deliver. And then don't avoid fight or flight situations. So like a lot of times, some things like we seem like as a risky. So it's better to do it and see how, if what you can, what you can learn from that. But as a result, if you don't avoid fight or flight situation, you will know next time that, probably tool is a better way to go about it. And celebrate wins, right? So the key, like it's not about celebrate, but measuring progress is really important because a lot of people say my tools actually make things 10x better. Like it's like I did things that is 100x better, right? Actually, like people don't actually believe that until they see it. So it's really important, and that's why we write tools, like sometimes just so we can measure progress and measure these wins, right? We'll launch our launcher, right, and then we're like, oh, before like to deliver, we had to ship like 1 gig for each, to each user, and then when we do update, it's another gig. So right now, like it's all like, diff updates. So like actually our update is only the size of what we committed. So like from 50 megs to 5 meg. And then everybody like, oh, look, we have 400 users, like terabytes of data saved. We're not paying money. So it's really important, right? Because people are like, they feel like winners. Always give credit, and give credit like all the way from the back, right? So like sometimes, like we did our procedural system maybe about 18 months ago, first time around. I still speak about it every week to our lead program. Like, hey, look, it's so awesome, and every time we see videos of people playing, like, look, it's so awesome. You did the system. People like try to get to the end of this cave, but there's no end to the cave. It always goes forever. So like you really have to because it's kind of reinforces why tools are good, right? Because you're like, hey, this thing is really amazing. And then reward the tool maker. A lot of time in game studios, like tools guys are sitting in the corner, they're like doing something. Uh, and like then there is gameplay guys, and then there's leads. Like reward the toolmaker, right? Like, hey guys, tell him, hey, you did a good job. So conclusion is, man is a tool using animal. Nowhere do you find him without tools. Without tools, he's nothing. With tools, he's all. So Thomas Carlyle. So and for me, that's kind of how we try to develop culture in our studio. That like if something is difficult, just make a tool to make it easy, right? And what happens, like if you think about game development or anything, like you start something, it goes fast, and then it slows down, and then you kind of in this, crunch or rut. But I think tools kind of get you out of that, because tools by definition, they have superpowers, right? They increase your productivity, they make your life easier, they help you to collect feedback, and they just, when human pick up the hammer, right? Like, things became way easier when human made a fire. And the same in software development. So always when you doing the process and then somebody on your team is like, hey, we need a tool for this, and then somebody else says, look, it's going to be 2 weeks, but we can do it in 4, like straight away, don't worry about it. Still, like, try to say, and I mean tools even for wargaming, like tools, all of you do tools, but there's tools to make tools, right? Like you do something, you don't know how it performs, like it's kind of a feature on your end if you think about it. You still like do a tool to make this feature better or easier. And if it's, and don't like say, hey, quality assurance is going to catch it if something is wrong, right? Or it's somebody else's problem. Like just still like write a small tool, it will make your life easier. I think that's it for me. I'll try to be quick. So I'll just show a small like teaser of which nobody saw, but some people in Shanghai about our game. So, and you will know a little bit better what we do. So, and then I'll take questions afterwards. So there's some sound situation, but I'll just let it run. Oh, it's buffering, unbelievable.
Australian internet.
Yeah, we are in Australia.
Wow.
I'll just reload the page or something.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. I thought you like on NBN or something.
We're on fiber.
But it's Australia.
So it's Australia without fiber is
Probably.
I mean, it started right.
Somebody probably grouped the cable again.
Thank you, guys.